Hi, this is Benjamin Bernstein with AstroShaman.com, and today I want to talk about some insights I've gained during the month and a half since my partner Maeikisala had her stroke. Today is an exciting day. It's January 29, 2020, and she comes home today. I'll be leaving shortly to go to Care Partners here in Asheville, North Carolina, the inpatient rehab facility where she's been, and we'll be driving her home. It's been a month and a half since she had her stroke on December 11, 2019. And she and I are both excited for her to return. And it has been quite a journey for both of us. So I wanted to share some of the challenges I've faced, how I've faced them, ways I feel like I've stepped up well to the challenges, places where I could have done better, and maybe some insights on either side that might help you in some way. So that's my theme today. As a broad overview, of course, the initial stroke was shocking. And she was in the intensive care unit for 10 days before being transferred over to Care Partners for over a month afterward. Care Partners is the inpatient rehab facility. And during that time, I was with her virtually 24/7, sleeping in her room. Of course, that also meant being repeatedly woken during the night by beeping machines saying we're out of the IV fluid, or nurses coming in and checking. And however, I was sort of on adrenaline rush a lot of that time, or maybe not adrenaline rush, but I was sort of in a heightened state. I was getting a lot of divine download energy that was supporting me well, and I was amazed at how well I was coping. There were several times when I had very powerful bouts of crying, the first few days especially. They didn't last more than usually 4 to 5 minutes tops. But they were the morning of the Maeikisala I had known. I had no idea what she was going to be after the stroke and how much capability she would have, if she would even have an altered personality in some way. So there was a lot of grieving of the old her. And fortunately, over the years, I've learned enough spiritual and shamanic tools for how to go fully into an emotion and process it rapidly that didn't take a long time. After a few days, I no longer had any crying. And for the most part, I felt kind of like Superman, man. I'm just here, I've got great energy. My friends were marveling at how well I was coping with it all. And that was true for about the first month, for the most part. But then the marathon finally started to wear on me, and there were times when my emotions would start to get more ragged. I'd become irritable. What happened after those initial 10 days in the ICU is she was transferred to inpatient rehab again. And I then kept sleeping with her for a few nights, a cot, a little mat on the floor, instead of the torture cot that they wanted me to sleep on. Always have good sleeping things. And then, I could feel it was starting to wear on me a little bit, and we agreed I could try sleeping at home. I mean, she's only 8 minutes away, so I kept the phone on. I would let her know I was on call. But then after a few nights of away, then she started having some night challenges. Her initiation has been not just physical, but also, she's going through a whole shamanic death and rebirth here. I warned her not to do 2 mystery schools at the same time, but she jumped in anyway. She's very ambitious, this lovely woman of mine, Maeikisala. And mine doesn't mean I own her, it just means we're together. I need to be politically correct on that. Anyhow, I've distracted myself. Back to the, so then she began getting, challenging thoughts in the night. She would get into a phase where mentally she would get stuck in a negative, challenging thought loop and didn't have enough witness consciousness to pull herself out. So I served as her reminder of who and what she was, helped her ground back into the earth, connect back to her spirit essence, and she was fine after that. So she needed a few helpers to get her past that. The last few days she's been fine. Either she's worked through a lot of that stuff, or she's now maintaining her divine consciousness consistently enough that she doesn't need me to kind of kick that back in for her. So the picture I'm trying to paint here is that it's been a lot of stress. In addition to supporting her and making her the absolute top priority during this time, I also had a lot of business stuff I had to take care of. I had a very heavy client load already. Because of the Black Friday special I had just run. Many clients had stepped up and bought that, and so I was on some days seeing 5 or 6 clients a day. After her stroke, I just cleared a whole week of clients, and I'm sorry, we're gonna have to reschedule. So when I did start seeing them again, probably yeah, after she got out of the ICU, then I resumed a more normal client schedule, and it was a very heavy workload. And then the eclipses were happening in late December and mid-January, and I always run an eclipse special around that, and that was a lot more energy into the promotions and the client work that came from that. So I've been working with a pretty much heavy client load and supporting her, and it's stressful. And what I saw was the ways in which I felt like I did pretty well was that I was able to, basically I got the benefit of my backlog. You know, for years now I've been doing very serious spiritual practice and have been really working to be in the deepest consistent state of embodied awakening that I can. And after she had the stroke, I did virtually no spiritual practice for about a month, which is a shocking revelation, but I got grace. Well, about once a day I would lay down and just energy I'd get like a spontaneous download. It would take several minutes, and it was like literally like a battery recharging. I would just, zoop, there I am, good to go. And I had enough energy for another 24 hours. So my divine ally saw that there wasn't really a lot of time. I mean, before she had the stroke, I was luxuriously sitting at my Mesa Sonos for 2 or 3 hours a morning and had the space and time for this amazing deep practice. And fortunately, I built up a reserve of spiritual goodwill there because I needed it during that month. And since after that month, I've been doing a little more regular practice, nothing like my usual schedule, but again, there's a lot in the physical world demanding my time. But I had the accumulated goodwill of that divine grace supporting me. But then during the last couple of weeks, when she and I started getting triggering with each other a little bit more, the particulars aren't even important. The point is we both had some significant shadow work come up, and she's very good at dealing with hers. Again, as I mentioned already, I was able to support her, getting her back to her center again, connected with her divine awareness. Once she was there, she was fine. She could do the rest on her own. We each take full responsibility for our own emotions, by the way, which is like super important for the healthiest possible relationship. That's a topic for another day. In fact, I've already covered that in a previous video. But I'm now going to circle back to the point I distracted myself from. When I got triggered in an interaction with her or because of a situation related to this whole scenario that I've described, I was able to do an energetic technique, sit at my mesa, raise, grandfather, drink. You know, one of my practices is I drink tobacco tea through my nose. It's called raising singa, and it's been done for thousands of years in certain South American cultures. And that's a very potent ally for me. Sometimes I'll just do a spiritual practice tool, ways of clearing the heavy energy, which in South America they call hucha, from my field, whether that's a salt shower or consciously using a lower energy center in my body called the Costco to process it through. There's, you know, the technical details aren't that important for the purpose of this video, but I have ways of clearing, and when I do them, they work, and was able to constantly do those. You know, sometimes they were quick, sometimes it took me up to an hour and a half to get my energy back again, but I was always able to reestablish it. And so it's been quite a process for me as well. About 10 days in, roughly around the time she got transferred from the ICU to Care Partners, I had a sudden awakening experience that I've discussed in a prior video too, where I suddenly realized I couldn't tell the difference between myself and my divinity, and that has continued since then, even in the times of challenge. And one of the teachings I've learned is even in this more, you know, deeply awakened state that I'm now in, I can still be challenged by tough energies and still have to have good tools to work with those. You know, having a certain level of awakening isn't a ticket away from any challenge. I think the challenges just get more subtle, perhaps, compared to the old ones. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit rambly on this. This is actually my second take of this video, because the first one was even more rambly, so I'm trying to make it a little more coherent for you. So what's good is that I have a good set of spiritual practices, and that's something I'm going to recommend for you. If you feel like you're just the victim of your own emotions and thoughts, and they're just running you around, then get some kind of practice going that is going to help you. And there's lots of great practices out there. I certainly offer free tools on my website, astroshaman.com, that might help you. On the menu bar, there's the word invocations, and that will give you some invocations that can help with awakening and healing stuff, all free, very simple and easy to do stuff. But whatever works for you, have some go-to tools. You know, here in 2020, we're in a a Saturn-Pluto conjunction year. We've already had the conjunction, but it's going to be strong all year. And it's going to be accentuated by transiting Jupiter coming and passing over Jupiter and Saturn at various points during 2020. So it's a very intense year for all of us. And it's good to have your shadow work tools available now. And I'm certainly no exception. Being the astrologer who can see it coming doesn't mean I'm exempt from it by any means. So have your tools ready to deal with your stuff, because this is going to be a very intense year personally and socially for a lot of heavy energy coming up to be cleared. There's going to be a significant amount of challenge as well as opportunity. So that's one of my takeaways for you, is have your tools ready for when the stuff hits the fan. Also have a social support group. This is very hard to do solo. In this situation, it was more than I could possibly have done. So Maeikisala and I are so fortunate to have a tribe of people, the people we study the law of one channel material with and have for years. There's easily a couple dozen people we can call on for help when we need them, and most of them are happy to step up and help and really ask for nothing back. So if you are not already part of a community that you can call on for support when you need it, and this also means you being willing to support them. It's a both ways scenario, of course. But if you're isolated, you're a solo act, then find your like-minded tribe, people you truly resonate with, who are of like spirit, of like mind, and form connections with those people so that if y'all need help, you can help each other. We're sadly past the point of the tribe or the village where everyone knows each other and you can just, it's a given that the tribe will help you. Now we have to create our own sometimes. So if you don't already have one, I recommend you find one. For example, tomorrow I leave for a 3.5-day shamanic training that is part of a 9-month mystery school I'm part of, the Eagle Condor program that Jeff Firewalker Schmidt runs. It's amazing. And you know, that's 3.5 days. I won't be here with Maeikisala right after she's come home. And fortunately, we've got our allies stepping up. We have people who will be here 24/7 from the time I leave to the time I'm back, who will be caring for her in my absence. So that's the beauty of having tribe. And we know how lucky we are to be part of a group like that. But we have cultivated those relationships consciously, and now it's paying off in ways we hadn't expected that we would need. But you never know what you're going to need. You have to have resources ready when they're needed. So that's a little bit of what I wanted to share. I don't want this video to run super long. I guess if I were to bullet point now the key takeaways that I'm trying to transmit here, and it's a bit wandery, and I apologize more than usual. I'm a little wandery on this video. Have your tools for dealing with your own shadow work, your own challenging emotions and thoughts. Have a support group. Develop it if you don't have it. If you have a group and you're not really connected, you know, make those connections in a meaningful way. So those people are going to be there for you and you can be there for them. Know that we're in a tough year. I mean, I think our general trend as humanity right now is we're kind of coming down to the wire on a huge consciousness shift. So even if Saturn and Pluto were not conjunct in the sky this year, it would be intense because of the rising tide of awakening on planet Earth and the forces of darkness that are rising up to resist it. It's just a very intense time. So the best of us are being challenged. I know many beautiful, very awake, very conscious people, and just about all of them are going through intense challenge right now too. It's just the moment that we're in. So know that you're not doing anything wrong if you're having a lot of challenge. It's just the tide we're all in. As I teach in my awakening, my invocation post, you know, it's like every time you successfully do a big challenge and that layer of the onion, so to speak, falls off, the light at the core of you shines forth more brightly. I call it the great onion of consciousness. So know that both individually and collectively, we're being invited to face our shadows. It's intense, it's challenging, but if you do the work well, then you will prosper. I'll add one little PS on here, which is Maeikisala and I pretty much instantly, instead of bemoaning, oh, how terrible, how victimized we've been because Maeikisala's had a stroke, we said, wow, our souls chose this. We are here on purpose. Our humans didn't expect it, but we believe that our souls chose this event to happen. So we haven't spent any energy fighting, wishing it wasn't so. We immediately came into compliance. This is our new reality. There's no resistance. There's no wishing it was different. This is our post-stroke reality. So I have a phrase, when you fight the universe wins. So if there is something unchangeable about your reality, just accept it, You know, if you still have negative feelings or thoughts coming up around that, do shadow work to process it. Don't let it keep running around in your head. It will poison you. Be okay with things as they are for starters, and then if there's change you want beyond that, you will make that change much more effectively by having accepted the current reality for your starting point. Resenting that things are as they are is just a waste of energy you could be using more productively. So do whatever shadow work you need to do to clear out that old resentment or whatever negative emotions or thoughts you're having regarding your current state. So hopefully there's a nugget or two you've gleaned from this. Again, apologies that it's more rambly than usual, but it's kind of a large topic. What I will say is I'm happy that I've done the spiritual work that I have to have the tools and the consciousness to work with a challenge on this level and do as well as I've done, while still seeing that there's areas where I did face significant challenge and had to regroup, draw on those resources, whether it was my own personal spiritual and shamanic abilities, whether it's the support of my friends, to cope through a difficult time. And I will add, of course, that what I'm going through is nothing compared to what Maeikisala has been through. I mean, she lost initially the use of her right arm and leg and has recovered most of the right arm. The right leg is coming back bit by bit. She's recovering with amazing speed. And her spirits and attitude are excellent, which is also super helpful. So before I ramble any further, let me just wrap it up. As always, if you are interested in working with me, I am fully available starting next week on Monday the 3rd. On Tuesday the 4th of February, I'll be fully back online for client work. So if you want to work with me for astrology, shamanic healing, awakening activation, life coaching, if you're interested in my Awakening Plus membership, that's available. All that's described on astroshaman.com. And would love to work with you if you're interested. And even if you don't, then I hope you've gotten something helpful from this video. Thanks for watching.